My ambition has always been to be a journalist, and although I thought I might find there'd be some sort of obstacles in the way, I've never found that to be the case. Since I've been going to the Cystic Fibrosis Clinic and been involved a lot more in my own treatment and understood a lot more about it, I felt much more positive and more able to cope with the future and plan for the future. Whereas when I was a teenager, I thought there isn't going to be much of a life for me, but there is. The fact that I've kept healthy means I've been able to pursue my aims in life. I've been able to look after myself, I've moved away from home, I'm coping for myself, and I want to be independent.
Go!
After all the hard work and preparation, there it is. The satisfaction of personal achievement. Of course, it takes hard work to reach that goal, day after day, week after week. No worthwhile achievement in life comes easily. This program is about living with cystic fibrosis, and the message is the same. Achieving the goals of health and a satisfying quality of life depends on consistent and effective treatment, day after day. This needs your continuing commitment, because periods without treatment may lead to lasting effects. Hard work and commitment is the only way to win. A good starting point for finding the way to win in cystic fibrosis is to look at what it is and what its effects are. As most people know, cystic fibrosis is not infectious. The condition is an inherited disease. Inheritance follows rules. Cystic fibrosis is a recessive genetic disease. This means that only people who receive the cystic fibrosis gene from both parents will inherit the condition. People who receive only one gene for the condition are called carriers, because they carry a gene for cystic fibrosis even though it doesn't affect them. Most people don't know they're carriers, but if two meet and start a family, there's a risk that their children may have cystic fibrosis. When a child is conceived, the genes from the parents are combined randomly. For example, it's possible that a child will not receive the CF gene from either parent. In this case, he or she will not have the disease or be a carrier. A child may receive a cystic fibrosis gene from just one of the parents and will then be a carrier. The child may, however, receive the gene from both parents, and if this happens, he or she will have cystic fibrosis. Of course, children are conceived separately. So for two carriers, each pregnancy has a 1 in 4 chance of resulting in a child with cystic fibrosis. Having the genes for cystic fibrosis leads to subtle changes in the body's chemistry. These are largely focused on glands which produce mucus and the sweat glands. The lungs and the digestive system are particularly involved, but for most people with cystic fibrosis, controlling the effects on the lungs causes the most problems. The lungs are a particularly vulnerable part of the respiratory system, whose main function is gas exchange during breathing. This essential life process relies on a series of support functions to operate efficiently, like keeping the airways clean. To help do this, glands in the linings of the airways produce a layer of mucus, which traps foreign particles and bacteria. On the surface of the lining, there's also a mat of tiny moving hairs called cilia, which beat continuously to move the mucus upwards. This escalator effect carries the mucus and trapped bacteria out of the lungs. In cystic fibrosis, however, there's a basic defect in the mucus secretions, so that the mucus is much thicker and stickier than usual. The problem with this is that the cilia can no longer move the mucus. It's too thick. Instead of the airways being kept clean and clear, mucus builds up and forms a breeding ground for infection by bacteria. The body fights these infections with millions of white blood cells or neutrophils, which are transported to the airways where they engulf and destroy the bacteria. But once the neutrophils have done their job, they break down and die, releasing long, sticky strands of a chemical called DNA, which makes the mucus even stickier, as well as other chemicals which contribute to persistent inflammation. Obstruction of the airways by this thickened mucus causes breathing difficulties and increases the possibility of bacterial infection, initially with Staphylococci and Haemophilus, but later with Pseudomonas. In some circumstances, fungal infections can also become a problem, particularly with Aspergillus. As a normal response to infection, more mucus is produced to try and clear the airways. Unfortunately, in CF, this has the opposite effect, and more sticky mucus is produced, which makes clearance even more difficult. This sequence of events becomes a vicious cycle of repeated infection and inflammation, which eventually results in progressive lung damage. What can be done to slow or prevent the effects of this cycle? In recent years, there have been many developments in cystic fibrosis treatment aimed at breaking into this vicious cycle and slowing down or halting its effects, and more are on the horizon. To obtain maximum benefit from these developments requires hard work, commitment, and disciplined attention to treatment programs. Available treatments make it possible for many people with cystic fibrosis to enjoy a satisfying quality of life. Whether it's regular physiotherapy, maintaining a course of antibiotics, or any of the other prescribed treatments, the aim of all these techniques is to keep the body in the best possible condition to combat infection and do as much as possible to clear away the excess mucus in the lungs, which establishes the vicious cycle. Commitment to a regular treatment plan is the only way to win.
You find some people don't want to do their treatment until it's absolutely necessary, and then they're hospitalised. They will leave it like their physiotherapy. They won't do their physiotherapy until they think they need it. But I think it helps to do it whether you think you need it or not. Just like getting up and cleaning your teeth. It's the first job I do in the morning, and if I don't do it, the day starts off all wrong. It's the most important part of my treatment.
My mother and father made sure I've always kept healthy, so I'm trying to keep that up. Trying to look after myself and trying to keep myself fit. I wanted to do something about my fitness, and I put some more weight on. So with the advice of my doctor, a friend and I started going to the gym regularly. And as soon as I started seeing results, I kept it up ever since. It's been great, and the first half a year I put nearly a stone on, and I've continued now for 2.5 years. I mean, I definitely recommend it. I feel better and I feel healthier.
Well, I get up earlier than people normally would, so I can do my physiotherapy with my PEP mask, and that'll take 15 minutes to half an hour. I use my inhaler morning and night, and I take my vitamins in the morning and my pancreatic enzymes with my meals. My colleagues at work know I have CF, but it doesn't make any difference to them at all. I'm not treated any differently.
When I was younger, my dad used to take me jogging, and I was at the age where I really didn't like it, although he kept encouraging me to do it. But since then I've taken up cycling and joined a cycling club. If I go out during the day and exercise, then I can just feel that when I go to bed at night, that I relax more and that I breathe more deeply and don't have to put as much effort into breathing.
Doctors and other specialists can advise you on the best plan to follow. But the success of the program depends on your commitment, discipline, and determination to succeed. Part of your program will include the use of antibiotics to help control bacterial infections which cause so many problems if they become established. As well as being supplied as tablets or for inhalation, these may be given most effectively by injection. Even where this is the case, new systems like this portable infusion device may allow less interference with daily living. The way to win means following your treatment plan thoroughly. Remember the basic checklist. Your regular physiotherapy program is essential for mucus clearance, while exercise is also beneficial and helps to improve general well-being. Take all antibiotics as prescribed. Eat the right foods. This means pursuing a high-energy diet, including high-energy drinks or snacks. Make sure you keep in touch with a dietitian experienced in cystic fibrosis to give you the right advice. Take your prescribed pancreatic enzyme supplements as advised. Keep your nebulizer and compressor clean and regularly serviced. Be fully immunized, including a yearly flu vaccine. Don't smoke and stay clear of smoky places. Keep clear of cold sufferers. Working at your program to keep yourself healthy, caring for your lungs, preventing infections getting established, keeping up your energy intake, maintaining your weight. These are all steps on the way to win. And working at winning now is an investment in the future. Not only can thorough attention to your treatment program help you break the vicious cycle, but most importantly, it can also keep you in good condition to take advantage of continuing advances in the treatment of cystic fibrosis. As scientists understand more and more about what's happening in cystic fibrosis, particularly at the genetic and molecular level, their power to reduce the effects of the condition increases. One treatment which tackles the problem at a molecular level is recombinant human DNase, or Dornase alpha. This is an enzyme like those used in the digestive system to break down the foods we eat. The target for DNase, however, is the tangle of DNA strings, which are released by broken down neutrophils and increase the stickiness and build-up of mucus in the airways. The enzyme is brought into contact with the mucus layers by inhaling droplets through a jet nebulizer. DNase works by breaking up the strings of DNA in order to make the thick mucus runnier and easier to clear from the airways. This reduces the risk of infection and helps to improve breathing and lung function. When DNase is combined with the other regular treatments in cystic fibrosis, it may help to delay or interrupt the vicious cycle of mucus buildup and infection. Today, more is known about cystic fibrosis than ever before, and with each year, more information is gathered. New approaches to treatment are in development, and scientists are now exploring the cystic fibrosis gene itself. Identified in 1989, the gene is the subject of concentrated research. This may open avenues to better management in future, and has already improved techniques for the diagnosis of cystic fibrosis and the identification of carriers. In time, this research may lead to gene therapy. It is hoped that this will correct the basic defect sufficiently to produce normal mucus. These possibilities are still some time in the future, but the future starts now. Talk with doctors, physiotherapists and other advisors. Concentrate on keeping yourself in the best possible condition. To be able to obtain maximum benefit from improvements in treatment and the new techniques which are helping to break down the vicious cycle, you must take care of yourself now. The way to win starts with you.
I don't think you can afford to be careless at any time with cystic fibrosis. You've got to keep on top of it all the time because that's the only way you'll have a good life.